Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for all the comments. I had so many comments, and I think the most emails I've ever received on one video, on the last video I did on the road rage that we experienced. Amazing, and your support was incredible. I know a lot of you said I wouldn't have stopped, um, or I wouldn't have done, or wouldn't have assisted him, and I totally get that. And do you know what? If I had been on my own, I'd like to think I would have still stopped. I'm that sort of person, if I'm honest. I wouldn't like to leave someone in a ditch not knowing if they're okay. But whether or not I'd have helped them after that, I don't know. But because I had my partner with me and she is the kindest, really sweetest person you could ever meet, she was really up for not only helping but talking to this guy. And I had most of the comments, and all of the comments were really, really nice, except for one guy, Richard Van something or other. Can't remember your surname. Nearly blocked you, if I want to see you, buddy, because I think you said something along the lines of, my wife's logic is in the ditch. Well, I found that quite offensive, to be honest with you. It was far from in the ditch. And let me try and explain to Richard why. My partner's idea was to, instead of the incident ending with him being really pissed off that he's in a ditch and probably blaming me because he was trying to get past a motorcyclist, she managed to speak to him. I spoke to him too, but she kind of managed to explain to him what could have happened. And the fact, when he said, "I can't believe this has happened," she said, "Well, can you imagine if it had been us that had gone in the ditch, and we'd have probably still been lying there?" And that kind of hit home to him a little bit, because my other half said it looked like he was going to cry, and it did. So maybe stopping and assisting, sort of smothering him in kindness, helped. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe next time he sees a motorcyclist and he doesn't do what he did yesterday, but who knows? Who knows? But, my other half's incredible, and for her to basically talk him into an apology and make him realise, more importantly, that his actions, for one, weren't acceptable, and for two, could have ended potentially really badly. And speaking of that, I've been talking to friends about this, and all of my friends have said to me, without exception, why has it got so bad? Why is road rage and aggressive drivers, why since the pandemic, it seems, it's got really, really bad. So I started looking into it a little bit, and I'll tell you some statistics in a minute, which are horrifying, absolutely horrifying. And these are a couple of years old, so it's probably got even worse than that. But before I do, I've got a list of reasons why they think that road rage and aggressive driving has become worse of recent times. And one of the ones is pandemic stress. So post-pandemic, people have a larger level of anger that appears to surface whilst driving. I don't know if that's true, but I do feel that since the pandemic, it has got worse. So that could be an option. The one that I think is the one, but then who knows? It's the me first mentality. Some argue that a growing sense of individualism and selfishness contributes to the me first attitude, where people prioritize their own needs over the safety and convenience of others on the road. I think that's more likely what the case is. Why it suddenly got really bad, or it's sort of got to this point, I don't know, but I think that's what it is. I think that people really feel entitled almost, and that they should be ahead, they should go as fast as they want, and no one should stop them. Why that is, I have no idea. But there are lots of other suggestions to why. Increased polarization, social and political polarization can make drivers less prepared to encounter and accept differing viewpoints on the road, leading to frustration. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Why has it got so bad? Some people say policing, there's not enough police. I don't think that's it. I think that you'd have to have police on every single road, because it happens all the time. It's not just in certain areas on certain streets. And some said it's not just the country. It's not just London or Manchester or whatever big city you live in. It's also in the country. So it's impossible to police. I think it's not, yeah, it's not down to policing. It's my opinion. Another thing I want to tell you is the statistics of fatalities, so deaths in 2023 in the UK from aggressive driving and road rage. Just from that, not from speeding or any other forms of accidents. This is directly from road rage incidents and aggressive driving. And I will tell you the statistics, and it's horrifying. Before I do that, I just want to read you something that I found on the internet, and I thought this is exactly right because it does match up to trolls on the internet. So the shell of a person's car can create an atmosphere of invulnerability and anonymity, similar to how people are more likely to be bullies and harass others on the internet anonymously. I think there's a lot to be said about. I think that could be it. One of the points is that people feel that they're protected in their shell of their car. They're in their big Audi, BMW. I'm not specifically saying what cars. A lot of people saying, was it a BMW? Was it an Audi? It was a BMW, as it goes. But I know a lot of you are going to have BMW, so I'm not painting you all with that same brush. But I think it's the fact that you're in a big car and you feel anonymous and almost invincible, I think, especially against a motorbike who's maybe poodling along. Although I wouldn't say I was poodling along at 45 miles an hour. I was going at a steady pace on a small, wet country road. So, but because the dangers are different to that guy in the car than it was to me and my other half, he doesn't take into consideration that actually I could quite easily come a cropper because of the conditions of the road. He doesn't think of me. He just thinks, well, I've got a big, brand new BMW. I can roar past him and it's not going to affect me at all. I'm sure that was in his head. Anyway, let me get back to these numbers. Horrendous. Right, so these are statistics that came from 2023, so only 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there were 143 deaths on the UK roads solely because of road rage and aggressive driving incidents. Not anything else, just that. And if you broke that down, guess how many of them were motorcyclists? Nearly 25%, 34. 34 of those were motorcyclists that died. I thought that was a lot. 17 were pedestrians, 6 were cyclists, and 79 were people in the cars. That's a lot of people dying just because of road rage and aggressive driving. And I think I said to you guys yesterday, maybe I said it to a friend, I can't remember. I was on the M25 the other day, driving back from London, and in lane 3, I saw at least 3 or 4 people tailgating and flashing the guy in front. And they were going in excess of 80 miles an hour. And literally nose to tail. I mean, it's no wonder that those figures, I'm surprised they're not higher actually, and maybe they are higher now. But why has it risen so much? I don't really understand. You can blame it on the pandemic, it still doesn't quite make sense to me. This guy yesterday was a normal 50-something guy who was going to a work meeting. He had a family because he mentioned his son, and then my other half said, would you drive like that with your son in the car? And he said, of course not. Well, there you go. So why is it okay to do that on your own? But he's a normal guy in his 50s, middle age, with a really nice, it was a 74 reg BMW, a big 5 Series BMW, so an expensive car. Why does he change into a maniac that, for one, flashes a motorcyclist and hoots? For one, I mean, that's bad enough. That's enough to put people off driving and riding. I've read a load of your emails with horrific stories, and all of them have been about people flashing motorcyclists when you're going along at 50 or 60 and someone comes up right up your arse and flashes you. I mean, that is really scary. I get that. But what makes it okay for a guy, a normal guy that's got a family, that's got a job, that's got a nice car, to turn into some sort of nutcase, some sort of lunatic that thinks that's okay, that behaviour is okay? I can't work it out. I really can't work it out. And that's why I believe what my other half suggested we did and helped him is maybe the best solution. Because if we had left that scene, and for one, I couldn't have left it because you never know, he might have died, and I couldn't live with myself. I know some of you say we should just give him the finger and ridden off. I can't do that. That's not in me. But if we hadn't helped him and we didn't show him kindness, he would have just put it down to ignorant motorcyclists getting in the way of his daily driving, making him late for an appointment. But now, I mean, maybe it does make a difference, but at least we've tried, and at least my other half spoken to him, and maybe the next time he comes up and there's a motorbike in front of him, and there's lots around these country lanes, and cyclists as well, and kids walking down country lanes at night. It happens all the time, especially as it gets dark by 4 o'clock now. Maybe he will think twice. Maybe he will slow down. Maybe he won't be so aggressive when he comes up behind someone who's driving too slow as far as he's concerned. And I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that it has made a difference. Maybe today he's now thinking, I will be more careful. Probably not. I know a lot of you can say it's going to make no difference. Maybe it doesn't. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. That's what I'm saying. That's what my other half is trying to say. At least we know we've done all we can to maybe change that guy's, the way he behaves on the road. It probably didn't work, but at least we tried. So for those of you, or the one guy, Richard, you're very lucky I didn't block you, mate. Yeah, my wife's yeah, I can't remember what you said now. My wife's logic wasn't in the ditch. You know, if everyone was like my wife, the world would be a better place. So yeah, but I do appreciate what everyone says about I wouldn't stop, I'd give him the finger, I'd maybe stop to make sure he wasn't dead. I think you can't really say until you're in that situation. I think I probably would have said the same. If I'd been on my own, I'd have said, I'd have just given him the finger or given him, got off my back and shouted at him and then rode off. But you know what? We're all humans, and you know, I don't want anyone, no matter how they behave on the road, I don't want anyone to be dead and me, or to be fatally injured and me to have just left him there. I couldn't have done that. And that would have always been in the back of my mind. So that's the reasons why we did what we did and why my other half said what she said. And I'm glad that we did. So, but it still worries me that this is definitely getting worse. Everyone I spoke to yesterday and all the emails I got, horrific emails about road rage instances that you've experienced, is just awful, awful. And I don't get what's happened to the world that it's got to this point. I really don't. I can't explain it. Or everyone's saying it's this or it's that. It still doesn't make sense to me that normal people like this guy yesterday can turn into a bit of a monster behind a wheel and not care about other people's lives. And I think that's the thing. We are more vulnerable on motorbikes and bicycles. But he didn't see that at all. He just saw us as something in the way of his meeting, and he'd do whatever it took to get past us. And that really, really worries me that someone so normal, as I said, would resort to doing something so ridiculous. And the aggression as well. He clearly wasn't an aggressive person. He looked terrified when we approached him. So he wasn't one of these thug type blokes. He was just a middle-aged guy. Yeah. Anyway, maybe you can tell me, what is it? Why is it getting worse? And I know it's worse in America. I think I was reading that road rage shootings are up. I mean, that's even worse, isn't it? Someone's cut you up and then get shot. I mean, at least we haven't got that in this country. But I still don't understand why it's getting worse and worse. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate so much all the kind words. And yeah, it's no big deal to me. My other half was a bit shook up afterwards, but she's fine. And I'm not going to talk about it in any more videos, to be honest with you. It happens every day, unfortunately, and because I've got a YouTube channel, I wanted to mention it. But reading your emails and comments, it's rife. So yeah, I'll leave it there, park it up. But I'll be interested to hear why you think it's got so bad. Anyway, guys, thanks again. Have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ride safe. Oh, and someone might be buying the classic 350. I'll keep you posted. Oh, and one more thing. My furry growler's coming. Matt emailed me yesterday, and it will be sent out this week. So I'll be giving that away to one of you lucky guys. All right, guys, have a great day and ride safe.